Oh, sorry about this, anyone who has tuned in. I'll try one or two more things, and then if I can't, I'll just have to give up for now. The last couple of times I've done it, just the other participant has just been on, so I have no real settings at my end to add or take away anybody. I can't see them anyway. I've tried Googling and that's not giving me the answer, so I'm not really sure what else I can do. There's nothing you can see at your end, Jamie, is there? Oh. There now, who's that? There we go. Jamie, are you there? Jamie?
Hey, mate.
How's it going?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that.
Good.
I don't know what. Did you click something, or I don't think I did.
Oh, I've been playing around with it, and then a window popped up, and I clicked on it, and you're there now anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. So let's just give me 1 sec, and I'll get started. There now, who's that? There we go. Jamie, are you there?
I'm here.
Jamie?
Hello? Hey, mate.
How's it going?
Good.
Have you have another link set up there somewhere, do you? That's already open, Jamie. Did you click something, or I don't think I did.
Oh, mate, I'll check. Oh, I've been playing around with it, and then a window. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll dive right in. Thanks a million for taking the time. I know I've eaten into some of it already.
That's okay.
So we'll just do a bit of a Q&A. So what I might get you to do is maybe just give people just a brief introduction about who you are and what you do currently with the Crusaders.
Yeah, so I'm the performance analyst for the Crusaders. So I've been in New Zealand for 6 years, having spent 5 years previously with Leicester Tigers as their performance analyst. My main roles are more around the opposition analysis. So I do a lot of the opposition analysis, which I present to the coaches in the form of video. So that's looking at their trends, their key players, that kind of stuff, plus reports. And then we do a lot of live analysis of matches. So again, coding live, so the coaches can review instances, and producing reports live that update live around our KPI, so we can see how we're trending during a game with us and against the opposition. And then also we film and code every training session. So every training session is coded. I sit down with the coaches before a training session to find out what the training session is about, what they're trying to achieve from that, and then that gives me an idea of how we're going to film it and what kind of detail they want post training session. So that's in a really broad sense.
Yeah.
What I do.
Okay. Well, we might dive into some of the details. So I spoke to you, I think possibly your last year with Leicester Tigers, when you're finishing up there. So you might give people an idea how you ended up as a performance analyst, because I don't think it wasn't like you went to university, studied sports science, and then that was your career path. So how did you get into it?
No, I was kind of quite fortunate, really, I guess. So I was a professional rugby player for Leicester. So as I was coming towards the end of my career, my last season there, they asked me to be the halfback coach, and at the time, all their analysis was done with VHS, and there were no reports or anything like that. So it was sitting down in a meeting room, and the coach would fast forward and rewind through the videos, and like a review session would take hours. And when I became the halfback coach, I was actually living with a guy who was the head of UK sport technology and stuff, and he said, look, if you want to do it seriously, you should get yourself a laptop and some analysis software so you can code all the halfbacks' involvements in a game. So for the first year I was the halfback coach, I did that. So I'd get the tape of the game, capture it, and then code all the halfbacks' instances. And then I would sit down with them on a Monday and go through their game and go through their strengths and things they've got to work on. And the club saw me doing that and saw the benefits of it and said, look, do you want to do it full time for the first team? So I kind of fell into the role really, I guess, and kind of gone from strength from there.
So at that stage,
how,
most clubs wouldn't have even had an analyst as such, like a full-time role or anything?
No, it was the kind of that period where it was just starting to kind of filter into rugby. So a couple of clubs had just started to get those kind of people and start using software, whereas previously before that it was all VHS. The coach would do all the work.
Yeah.
So yeah, they could see the real upsides to having someone who did all that stuff for them. So it freed them up to actually concentrate on doing their reviews and previews and stuff.
So I'd imagine you've seen quite a change from just about the end of VHS to today.
Oh, massively. Even when you think back a couple of years, it's the profession we're in. It's constantly evolving. So things are always changing as new technology is released and people adapt that to our environment. But yeah, there's been a massive change.
And do you think it helped that you were a player, so and then a coach? So a lot of analysts talk about having to build a rapport with the coaching staff to get respect and trust. You sort of walk in with that, and then you learn the technical skills. Do you think that has helped you a lot, even in your role now with the Crusaders?
Definitely, I think there are different kinds of performance analysts. There are guys who really concentrate on the data and crunching the numbers, and other people who have a bit of background in the sport who can actually break the game down and help the coaches that way. So it's definitely helped me, having a really good understanding and having played the game at a high level, to be able to then go in and analyse it in detail and then present that information to the coaches to help them get ready for an opposition or to review a game. So I think there are kind of two different sides to it, but it's definitely helped me in terms of coming from a rugby background to be able to do my job, and I've picked up the analysis side of it in terms of the software and the process and all that kind of stuff as I've gone along.
Yeah. And so is that very much your role within the coaching setup in the Crusaders? Like, I suppose a lot of analysts get stuck in the capture code copy sort of thing, where your role is a bit more talking to the coaches, understanding what they're doing. It's a bit more involved at the management level than just producing numbers and stat sheets.
Yeah, but I also think, though, if you're a performance analyst, it's key you sit down, even if you're not that experienced, sit down and speak to the coaches and find out what it is they're looking at when they look at a game.
Yeah.
Find out the important things that they look for and what. There's no point as an analyst in going in and coding something that the coach doesn't think is important, because he's never going to look at it. So it helps from my perspective understanding the game, because I can if a coach has an idea on one thing, and I think something else is important, I can kind of talk to them about that. But as an analyst, it's really important that the information you produce, both visually and data-wise, is going to be used by the coaches, because ultimately they're the guys who are then going to go and utilise that information. So there's no point producing something that they're never going to use. So yeah, it's key for whoever, even if you're starting up, is to sit down with the coaches and talk to them about what they think is important, the areas they want to concentrate on, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so that relationship is so important. So to take an idea, like let's take a game day, could you maybe walk us through what a typical game day looks like for you?
Yep, sure. So all the games here pretty much are all evening games, so they're all 7:30. So I usually get to the ground about 4:30, 5 o'clock to set up. So we have coaches' boxes here. So I know in the UK and a lot of places the coaches sit in the stands, which makes life a little bit more complicated. But so we have a designated coaches' boxes here at every ground, and in Super Rugby we have. Generally have four video feeds direct from the Sky trucks into the coach's box, which makes our life a lot easier. So we predominantly will have a TX or a program, a Cam 1, which is a wide, Cam 2, which is a close, and then Cam 10, which is an end on.
Yeah.
So we can capture all those views in the box at the same time. We'll also have a program audio and a ref audio. The ref audio is vital for us, so we can listen to what the ref is saying during the game. So we capture all that information directly in the coach's box for analysis purposes after the game. But during the game, we will also, so I'll code live, and then I'll do a timeline share with the coaches. So one of the coaches will have a close view, and the other coach will have a wide view.
Yeah.
And so they can go in, as I'm coding live, they can go in and look at review any instance, and then based on my live code template, we export some key stats, some KPIs to an iPad, which continually updates. So at any moment in time in the game, the coaches can go and look and see how our line out is going and compared to the opposition, those kind of things.
And is that type of, sorry to interrupt, is that type of report raw numbers, or is that a graphical thing that they can see the KPIs or anything?
So it's numbers, but we work on a traffic light system as well. So they change colour depending on whether we're achieving our KPI level or we're not. So green, amber, red, depending on how we're performing. So they can get a really quick visual of how a certain area is going.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you do any video at half time or anything?
So the coaches, we've set it up so the coaches, if they want to, we do it very occasionally, but only that's because half time is only 10 minutes, so it's really hard to present too much. But the coaches, if they need to present anything, will export the video to an iPad.
Yeah.
So we've got it set up so they just a couple of hotkeys and it goes straight to the iPad, and then they can take the iPad down, and it's generally we will show video to an individual. So whether someone's continually making a mistake in defence, or there's an opportunity that we've seen, so the coach can take that down and show it to our key drivers, so they can then hopefully implement that on the field.
Okay, and then you have obviously runners and stuff pitch side, so the coaches and yourself are in constant conversation with them if you have to get any message to players during the game.
Yep. So we're constantly mic'd up. So we have a couple of coaches sidelined. So the conversation between those guys, and so we have our defensive coach and our set piece coach down sideline. So they'll radio back up and say what happened on there, and the coaches in the box or myself can go back and look and tell them exactly someone shot out of line or whatever it was.
Okay.
So yeah, they're constantly reviewing the video and sending messages back.
And the stats review on the iPad, is that something you guys have built, or is that an off-the-shelf product, or can you tell?
It's just a sport. So we use Sports Code Elite. So we've just used it. So it's just an output window through Sports Code with the scripting in there to read the information from my timeline.
Okay. So
we just do an HTML export to an iPad.
And in comparison to what you would tag post-game, how much are you tagging live, or is it very sort of key basic information?
Oh, it's just really key basic information. So we code live for two reasons. So one, straight after the game, I can give the coaches a copy of the game with 4 views and the generic stuff coded, so they can go and start their reviews. So we code the set piece and then attack and defence, but then we add the labels. It's the labels that we add to that detail that produces the live report based around some of our KPIs. So one is for the live. So the labelling is basically for our live analysis, and the way the code window is set up is so when the coaches go away, it's easy for them to start their review process.
Okay. And do you have a team of analysts, or is it just yourself?
It's just myself.
Plenty of work to do.
So you can get fairly busy. But last time I spoke to you as well, I think I actually only just got to New Zealand. So the way New Zealand was very different to any other nation in terms of because the franchises are all centrally contracted. The NZRU actually control the analysis side of it as well, so they appoint they pay for all the analysis software for each franchise.
Okay.
and they pay for a post-match detailed code. So for every game in Super Rugby and even ITM Cup, which is the National Provincial Championship, every game is coded by an external coding company, which has its plus points, but also has its minus points. So we get a really detailed code not only on ourselves but every other team in the competition. So we base some of our post-match stuff around that, but then we also go in and do an extra code around some of our own KPIs and some of the extra detail that we want.
So you'd obviously have other definitions other than necessarily they might differ than what the external company tag.
Yeah, so we get a really generic code, which I guess it's great to have because we can get detailed information on opposition teams, which you simply wouldn't have the time or the resource to code if you were going to go back and look at your next opponent's last 4 games. You wouldn't have time to go through every individual player and code all their involvement. So we get that detail. But yeah, so basically what happens after a game is I'll give the coaches the stack view with my live code, so they can go away and start doing their review. The code that we get sent, it comes through approximately 6 to 7 hours after the game, so we get a detailed code from our external company 6 to 7 hours post the final whistle, and then after the game as well, I'll go back and I'll start doing coding the extra detail that we want. So come the following morning of a game, the coaches can wake up and they will have all their reports done on individuals and the team with the timeline with all the individual code in it as well.
So that's a long night for you, obviously.
Yeah, it makes it harder because we always kick off 7:30, so I don't get away from the ground till probably 11:30 by the time I've finished everything. So I don't kill myself off by working through the night. So I'll go home and get the first half of everything done, and then wake up early in the morning and get the second half done. So everything's pretty much done by 8:30 in the morning.
And is all coding done by you, or do the coaches add anything themselves? Like, are they trained up enough, or are they skilled enough to be able to do any of that coding themselves, or does it all go back to you?
No, so we're lucky. We've got the coaching group here are pretty tech savvy as well. So I've shown them how to do that. So again, going back to when you have that rapport with your coach. So I've sat down with each of the coaches individually and talked to them about when they're reviewing again, what are their areas they're looking at and what sort of detail they're looking for. So I've created each of the coaches their own code window, basically. So when they do their review, they're reviewing to their code window.
Yeah.
So and also then giving them an output window based around their code. So they code the game, going well as they go through it. They code and cut the clips that they want to review, and we do it that way. So they get the detail they want, and it obviously then frees me up to do extra stuff as well.
Okay, so that's your sort of typical game then. And then you said you code and video every training session, so that must take an awful lot more time.
Yeah, we do a lot of we code training sessions live. So I have some interns. So we have a relationship with a local college here in Christchurch. So their students, their sports science students, have to do 130 hours work experience in their second year. So some of those guys come to us and do that. So for certain sessions, I'll get those guys in. They'll come and help film and code as well to get their work experience. So those guys have been invaluable to me in terms of allowing me to get the information across to the coaches during training.
And can you tell me anything about the types of thing you code during training? Is it just ad hoc? Is it just chopping up clips, or do you actually code for any data or anything like that?
So I'll sit down with the coaches and so they have a coaches meeting every morning where we discuss whether they go through the training plan for the session. So I'll sit in on that generally, and find out exactly what it is they're trying to achieve from that training session. So then, based on that, I can then code the training session based around that. So it might be a breakdown drill, for example.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the guys' arrival. Are they coming in good body height? Are they cleaning? Are they being effective in the clean out? So we'll then code based around that. So we'll cut the. So we'll do it. So we'll do kind of starts to play almost. So we'll cut the training session down into the chunks of the relevant footage, but then go into that in further detail. And if it's a closed drill, like a breakdown drill, we'll code each person's individual arriving, and then whether they're effective or ineffective. And then I'll also go through it and code anything I think the coaches will want to go back and look at. So rather than having to trawl through the whole training session again, is they can jump to individuals, or they can jump to the clips that I've cut that I think they need to go and look at, whether it be a really good example of something or an example where we haven't quite achieved what we were set out to do.
And do you get many players looking for that information even without the coaches, or is it mainly all driven through the coaches?
Both. We've actually just for this year we've just gone with an iPad app. So every training session, every game is uploaded to the iPad. So the players, by the time they've come off the training field, that training session is coded and up on the app, so they can all go on there and review their involvements in the training session, or look at certain aspects of the training session.
Okay.
So the players, it's actually changed. Having this iPad, it's actually changed the way we work quite considerably. So it's been really useful for us.
So before, everything would have been individual meetings or team meetings, group meetings, that type of stuff.
Yeah, we still have those, but because of what we do now, it's actually changed. It's actually made our time more efficient because the guys do a lot of that stuff at home.
And in terms of from the game day to the training, would you every week sit down as a team and have a meeting based on last Saturday's game? Is that something you do every week? Yeah.
Yeah, no, every week. So basically, so if we play on a Saturday, the players will come in, do all their recovery and medical stuff on a Sunday. They come in Monday, and they will have, because they've had the game with all the code on it on the Sunday, they're expected to have reviewed their game, filled out their review forms. So every player, we have a book, and we have it on the iPad as well, where they have it's called their performance prep document. So they will write down their goals for that. So if we start from a Monday, they will have reviewed their game. They will have filled out their game review sheets, rated themselves in certain areas for each position. They will then go and sit down with the coach and have an individual one-on-one meeting where they go through that game review, and the coach will highlight anything that he saw from the player, and they'll just talk over the game. Then in the afternoon, so that's all in the morning, so every player is seen on a Monday morning. And then in the afternoon we'll do a review, so we do a unit review, and then we go into a team review. And then after that they play some flush games. There's just a light run around, some games just to get the body working again. And then after that we split up, so we have what we call a drivers meeting. So we'll have a group of players and the coaches who will look to go through our up next opponents. So the coaches show them some of the clips around what to expect and where our opportunities are. There's a defence group and there's a set piece group. So we split up into different groups, and they will then review our next opponents. Okay. So come Tuesday, the weekend's game's forgotten about, and we start concentrating on the opposition.
Very good. So like, I know it's a recovery day, but most of Monday is nearly dedicated to a review and sort of feedback meetings with the coaches, that type of stuff.
Yep, I said most of the morning, pretty much all the mornings, and then after lunch, we then start concentrating on our next opponents.
Okay. And in terms of the sheet the players have to fill in, the performance prep, they just sort of grade themselves in the last game in 5 or 10 key areas. Is that how it works?
Yeah, well, we have certain aspects, certain things that we want them to grade themselves on. So there are certain things that everyone has to grade themselves on, and obviously then there's position-specific stuff.
Yeah.
So they'll give themselves a score of what they thought they were in those specific areas, and then the coach will give them a score as well, so they can see whether they're on the same page or not.
And typically, how long would one of those one-to-one meetings last? Because if they're reviewing video or that type of stuff.
They're set down so they're 15 minutes.
Okay.
But the other thing with the iPad as well is, so when the coaches get the game on this Sunday morning with all the individual clips, is they can cut clips and put notes on them and then upload them to the player's individual folder on the iPad. So on a Sunday by lunchtime, the players will have their own individual clips from their relevant coaches with notes on. So again, so when they come in on the Monday morning, they've reviewed their game, they've reviewed their clips from the coach. So it actually speeds that whole process up, that review process.
Yeah, I've come across the performance reviews and getting the players. A lot of the feedback you get is that the players will just get it wrong. They'll either normally totally overestimate their performance. But I just think there's some value in them, and you obviously find the same, that you do get something out of the players marking themselves out of 10.
I think I do. I think they probably, we've done it for a number of years now, so the guys are used to doing it, and they're all pretty honest. So it's when you get big discrepancies between what a coach thinks and a player thinks in certain areas, that's when that kind of leads to a conversation, and they can then go through the footage and discuss that.
It's okay. And in terms of any sort of data analytics, I suppose, away from the video analysis, do you create a database of all the stats per game, and same with the opposition? Do you keep those figures?
Yep. No. So I do all that as well. So we keep a report that tracks our performances over the course of a campaign. So from game to game, so we can monitor how as a team we're tracking, but also as an individual. So we have one on every player as well. And then also, so the other part of my job is obviously the opposition analysis. So in conjunction with the video that I create for them, there'll be a detailed report that looks at the opposition and compares the opposition to us. So we can see, we might be playing a team and they have a poor line out but a great scrum or whatever, and where they score their tries from, and do they score their tries early in the phase count, late in the phase count, who their key players are, what their strengths are, all that kind of stuff.
And they're generally standardised reports, and you just fill in per team week to week. Yeah,
so I have a template which I just drop the data, the raw data into my template, which then creates a report. But then I'll go through that and I'll make notes, so highlight any key areas, and then also when I go through, so I go through their last 4 games and cut clips out. So I'll cut clips looking at their method, so what they do from line outs, scrums in certain areas of the field, what they do from counter, where our opportunities are, and with that as well, I'll have a 3 or 4 pages of notes, and then I'll sit down. So if we're playing the team the following week, so I will present that information to the coaches the Friday before.
Okay. So
if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're sort of 10 days ahead or 9 days ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And typically in many opposition games, would you look at it as an entire season, as the last 3 games?
Generally, their last 3-4, but depending on how those last 3-4 games are, I might kind of look at their last 2 and then a couple of games like earlier on in the season, depending on who we're playing and how they're going at the moment.
Okay.
But generally, it's the last 4, and then we'll always create a kind of a set piece database, line out scrums, set piece attack, which we put up on the iPads for the players, so the players can go through and look at all their line outs from the last 4 games and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, and that process in terms with the players starts Monday lunch hour, really?
Yeah.
And
they'll have that video of the opposition. So when after they've played the game at the weekend, that video is then made available for them of the opposition, so they can then, if they want to, they can start looking at that on the Sunday. So when they come in on Monday, they've already started to actually look at their next opponents as well.
Okay. And would you have a big team meeting on the opposition at any stage, or is it all done sort of unit by unit?
So we have that drivers defence meeting, set piece meeting on a Monday afternoon, and then on a Tuesday morning we'll have what we call, so we'll have a unit preview. So the forwards will go off and preview lineouts, scrums, etc., and the backs will preview their kind of strike opportunities and what a team does, and then we'll come together and have a team. So when we come together as a team, it'll be a lot far more condensed, and we'll just go over some general maps that when we call maps is what they do from set piece.
Yeah.
And just any key strengths they have.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, go on.
But we generally, the players generally present that, so the coaches don't present that stuff. So we'll get the players to get up and present that information to the whole team as well.
Okay. So the coaches take a step back, and as the week progresses, and then it's up to the key personnel in each unit to present something back.
Yeah.
And in general, do the players take a lot of training or adapting to that, or is it something that comes more naturally to them because they're elite players?
You get a mixture. You get some guys who are really happy standing up in front of a team and talking about stuff, and some of them who aren't so much. But I think it's really important that the players are always engaged, which is why the coaches want the players to present that information. They have to know what. They have to understand the information, but they have to believe in it, because ultimately they're the guys who go out in the field and then try and replicate that and produce it. So if they don't understand what the coach is talking about, or they don't believe it, they're not going to go out in the field and then ultimately do it. So it's really important you get player buy-in and they understand exactly what it is you want them to do. So that's why the coaches get them to present it, so they fully understand what it is the coaches want and what we need in a team perspective to go out there and produce.
And do those presentations always come from the drivers, or is it anybody can get selected?
Anyone really. So depending on the game, but we generally, so not all of the players will be in any of those groups. So they'll have, what they generally have is, so we have our drivers group, which will be the leaders. So the captain, the key drivers, the people who drive us around the field. But what they'll do is some of the younger guys who are in those key positions will come in to those meetings, so they start getting the experience and the understanding of what's involved. So we'll have key senior players there, but also start bringing the young guys through, and so they get an understanding of what it is involved. Okay.
And this might be a little bit unfair, but it's 5 or 6 years, obviously, since you worked in the UK. Do you think there's a difference between the players' attitudes to video analysis, or have things just moved on so much that it's probably an unfair comparison?
It'd be hard to say. Things have moved on so much in the time I've been here, so it would be hard to say. I mean, I couldn't really say. I mean, like I said, when I first started in the job, it was all VHS, whereas now every player's got their own iPad and everything's done on iPad. So the good thing with our guys, I mean, when I first got here, you definitely noticed a difference in attitudes and professionalism. But I would say that, I mean, you look at the England team at the moment who played the All Blacks at the weekend, they've come on leaps and bounds, they've come a long way. So I think that's one area where teams can really, really improve on, and as the sport gets more and more professional, the expectations on the player increase, and so I couldn't really compare at the moment.
Yeah. And a question, obviously, because you're a little bit centrally funded, and obviously the New Zealand Rugby Union take a bit of ownership of analysis and trying to develop it. Do they provide you with any research or trends, or what KPIs exist in other club games or anything like that, or is it very much all to yourselves? You have to develop the KPIs and the ranges yourself?
No, so they have a guy who who collects all that external data that gets coded. So from every game, from every team, and he produces reports for all so for the All Blacks coaches and for the super teams.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at every player, every team on certain aspects, so we get player ranking sheets every week where we can compare players to players and all that kind of stuff. So we get quite a lot of detail sent through to us around that as well.
Okay. And the traffic light system then you guys develop yourself, that's very much something in-house. You set the ranges of what's a poor, what's an okay, what's a great performance.
Yeah.
And
we get a lot of external data which helps us kind of look at the big picture stuff, so we can then compare. It's really good for comparing our players to other players in the competition, but then a lot of the stuff that we do based around our team is the stuff that we deem to be important, the stuff that we set the levels and the KPI levels and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I'd imagine there's only so much an outsider can ever analyse, because you're the only ones that know what the intention was or what the right decision was, because that's going to change from coach to coach.
Exactly, yeah. So that's one of the downsides of having an external company code things for you. So every team will have a different philosophy around their defence, their attack and stuff like that. So to be coding people for effective cleanouts and ineffective cleanouts, it's hard to do it from team to team because each team will potentially have a different philosophy. So that's why some of the key areas we have to go in and code ourselves or add extra detail.
Okay. And then more general question, what would you say is the biggest change you've seen, obviously other than getting rid of VHS, in the last 3 or 4 years? What was the biggest change you might have seen in terms of analysis?
Well, one of the biggest ones probably in the quality of the video. So with the kind of HD video now, you look back, even when I first started here, we would always get 4 views of a game, but the quality of the video was pretty poor at times. Now, yeah, so the quality of the video over the time has dramatically improved, especially in the last couple of years. And just little things like the inclusion of the use of iPads now has made a massive difference to our environment. So yeah, it's always constantly evolving, but they're probably 2 of the biggest things that have happened in our environment in the last few years.
Yeah, okay. And again, more general, do you have a proudest moment as an analyst, something you've seen happen on the pitch that you can relate to your work or to the training ground where you helped?
Oh, just
maybe there's loads.
It's always good to when you're looking at an opposition team and you say this team does this is an opportunity, and so we train for that during the week, and then it comes off and you score a try or something like that from it. So that's always nice when you've spotted an opportunity and the team managed to exploit it. So things like that are always pleasing. But I can't think of one thing. It's always great. I'm fortunate enough to have worked for some great teams that have been pretty successful. So it's always good when you're winning or getting to knockout rugby. So I've been very fortunate in that regard.
Yeah, very lucky. And in general, what is performance analysis like in New Zealand? Like obviously in the UK, there's now 3 or 4 masters courses specifically in it, and there's a growing number of analysts every year being produced. What's the same sort of thing like in New Zealand?
It's not quite there yet. It's getting better. When I first started over here, the analyst tended to be the IT person, and not really a performance analyst as such. That's changing now, and they're starting to get a couple of analysis courses. I think the thing here is there's limited job opportunities as a performance analyst within New Zealand, purely because of the size and the number of professional teams. But it's starting to get better. Some of the people who have done internships with me have gone on and So the guy who my first intern is now the Auckland Warriors performance analyst. One of the other ones has gone over to the UK to do a master's course in performance analysis. So there are opportunities over here, and it's slowly starting to become like the UK, where there are master's courses and more of an interest in it. So I know as the performance analysis manager for the NZIU is really keen to make sure that there's a clear pathway for people coming into the role.
Yeah.
And that starts trying to get some courses out there, so people who are interested in it have something they can start from. Because the big thing over here is getting the opportunity to get the experience to then be able to then move on further up the ladder.
And obviously New Zealand's a rugby mad country, so I'd imagine local even club sides are doing some basic video and cutting and even stuff like that, or does that happen?
Yeah, no. So all I wouldn't say all, most of the clubs do it in some form or another. Some of them, and what happens here as well, I don't know about other franchises or provincial unions, is that we film a lot of the club games as well. So we have players in our academy that play for those club teams, so those games are filmed and coded and put on the server here, so those players can come in, and their coaches, if they want to, can come in and look at the footage as well.
Okay, very good. And I have two more questions. So one, obviously, with the amount of data you collect, either both on yourselves and then you get from the NZRU, is that all managed in numbers, Excel type stuff, or do you have a super duper database built to handle any of that?
We use numbers in Excel, but the stuff the NZRU produce for us is produced in SAS.
Okay. And you get by with Excel and numbers fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We just I'm not really a numbers man so much, so I'm more vision, and just using numbers in Excel is great for me. Other people might use different things, but from my perspective and what we do in our environment, it's fine for us.
Okay. And then lastly, I suppose, any advice to any aspiring analysts out there, and what advice would you give them to getting into this career?
The key thing from my perspective is getting experience wherever you can get it. So everyone's got to start somewhere, and even if it's just going down and getting some filming experience. So filming is key, so you understand what the coach wants, so you can make sure that the video that they're getting is to the quality that enables them to get what they want. So if they're doing a really close skill, then obviously being tight enough so they can actually see hand placement on the ball or foot strike or anything like that, or if it's more of a team session, that you're wide enough so you can see the big picture and are people in the right places. The other thing would be I think it's really important as an analyst is having really clear and precise, well, not so necessarily precise, but really clear systems in place. So getting from A to B, and you have your systems so you can get there really, really quickly and efficiently. But also just as much experience as you can in terms of all those roles, so you have the basic understanding of Excel or numbers, whichever one you want to use. And just keeping things, especially when you start, really, really simple. I think people have a tendency, especially when they get some fancy software, is trying to make things too complicated too soon. And from my experience, if you try and make things too complicated before the players or the coaches understand how it works, you can lose them really, really quickly. So to start off simple, and as you get more experience and understanding of how software works, what the coaches want, then you can start adding and adding more detail to that.
Yeah, okay. I think that's some pretty good advice. I've one just last question that's just come in through Twitter. So just if or how you use analysis as a tool for development at academy level, is that something that you've any responsibility for?
Not I oversee the analysis, but our academy have some people who come in and film club games and code for the academy coaches and the club coaches. So and again also the pathways, so talented players will come into our academy, and those talented players will be looking to then progress to ITM Cup, and then from ITM Cup to Super. So ITM Cup coaches will look a lot of that club footage for the players for their ITM Cup squad, and then obviously ITM Cup, so Super coaches look at ITM. So it's important that we get all that information so the ITM Cup coaches can then select players for the ITM Cup team. So although I'm not the person filming and coding that stuff, it's definitely something that's important in our environment.
And do you try even have similar KPIs even at that level, so it's quite easy for your coaches to understand what they're looking at?
Not so much down at amateur level. So it's just a really generic coding. But pretty much Super Rugby and ITM Cup are exactly the same.
Okay, very good. I've no other questions. I'm all done. Unless there's anything you want to add yourself.
No, I'm glad we eventually got this sorted out, and it's been good to chat with you.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sure it'll be well received at the other end. I just whatever happened at the start, I don't know. Two
Okay.
technological wizards couldn't figure it out. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so I really appreciate
Cool.
your time. I know it's your day off, so I really appreciate the time, and yeah, and I'll be in touch. Okay.
Okay, no worries. Thanks ever so much.
That's great. Thanks, Jamie.
Cheers, Rob.